generations to come.
Good afternoon. It is December 7th, a Wednesday afternoon at 1:04 p.m., and this is another edition of the TDN Writers Room podcast, brought to you each week by Keeneland. I'm your host today, Bill Finley.
Bill, great to be here. Zoe Cavan with First Racing and XBTV, and Randy's deserted us for the podcast. Looks like Doodle behind me has deserted us, so it's just going to be the two of us, a nice cozy couple for the next podcast.
Randy needed the week off. Who are we going to miss more, Randy or Lucy? What do you think?
Oh, Lucy doing Dead Dog behind him, most definitely. Sorry, Randy, I love you very much, but definitely Lucy is the star of the show.
I think Randy would actually probably agree with that. Hey, so let's get right into it. The big last weekend of racing in New York for the year, topped by the Cigar Mile, the Remsen and the Demoiselle. Lots to talk about there. Zoe, I got to tell you, you look at the horse that wins the Cigar, Mind Control. Is he a superstar? Is he a flight line? No. But is he an admirable horse, the type of horse that just puts a smile on your face? He is something else. Is there a gamer horse out there in racing? When he wins, he never wins by 4 or 5 lengths. Matter of fact, usually he gets in a dogfight. Looks like he's going to lose, as it did this time out with Get Her Number past him at the 8th ball. Comes back to win again, to win probably the biggest race of his career at age 6. Not only that, as a 2-year-old, he won a Grade 1 stake, the Hopeful. As a 3-year-old, he won a Grade 1 stake, the Alan Jerkins. How many horses do you see in this day and age, particularly one who's not a gelding, win a Grade 1 at 2 and another Grade 1 at age 6? I mean, there's a lot to like about this horse. What a neat horse.
I mean, he's basically a throwback horse. If you think of his career now, he started off with Greg Sarko. Todd Pletcher took him on later in life. But the fact, it almost reminds me of Beholder. The fact he won a Grade 1 as a 2-year-old, taking down the Grade 1 Hopeful, and then a Grade 1 as a 6-year-old, going out in his swan song to win like he does. His last 4 wins where he's crossed the wire in front have been by a head. I mean, he's about as game a horse as you're ever going to get. Todd Pletcher's quote, "If you like racing, you have to love this horse." And that purely is Mind Control. He's a horse that we've seen time and time again. You kind of wish that he'd been on our lips maybe 3 years ago. He's just the horse that's just kept going and been consistent over his course of his career. And what an effort. And just to think, you got 3-1 on Mind Control if you love it. It's like his parting gift was a gift of money going off at 3-1. Zanden's overbet every single time and rarely produces. He's just a horse people love to bet on. But Mind Control at 3-1, I mean, come on.
Well, again, that was because, as you mentioned, the money came in on Zandon, who was a disappointment in this race. Get Her Number was second. White Barrio ran much better than he has recently to finish third in there. But kudos to Mind Control. He's going to go off to stand at stud somewhere. We don't know where yet. I mean, again, it's the same sort of thing. He's not going to stand for 200,000 like Flightline, but I'm sure he's going to make a good sire for somebody out there.
I'm pretty sure he's going to New York, which is going to be excellent because most of his big races have been in New York. He compiled a 12-for-29 record over the course of 5 seasons. And it's a rare you have a jockey, Johnny V, who basically said, "I've ridden this horse for 5 years." When do you ever hear that?
Yeah.
I mean, I thought it was terrific. And the fact he went out a winner for Todd Pletcher, also trains his sister, Queen Goddess. It looks like we're going to see her carry on next year as well. It's just terrific. A really feel-good race was the Grade 1 Cigar Mile, at least in my opinion.
It sure was. So the other stakes races on the card, let's start with the Remsen. And last year, what a good rendition of the Remsen it was. It was won by Mo Donegal, who obviously went on to win the Belmont. And Zandon was second. He went on to win the Bluegrass. You mentioned him earlier. So you had 2 horses come out of there to win major Grade 1 races. So I think it's pretty safe to say we're not going to get that this year. On paper, it really wasn't a very strong race. The winner is W, and I don't even know how to pronounce this, WNL, coming off a maiden. Yeah, coming off a maiden win for Danny Gargan. Again, take nothing away from him. To win in a 1 1/8 this time of year for a 2-year-old is notable. It shows that they can go the distance. But again, that race kind of on paper lacked star power. And I think it was, as it was run, it sort of lacked star power as well.
So yeah, WNL, it's DUBY something. I've got no idea. I did ask Danny Gargan. I'm like, how is this WNL? He's like, I don't know. It just is. But He's a pretty solid performer, and I think we'll see him along the line. Looks like he's going to go down to Florida and then perhaps come up for the Withers. Was the Remsen the best Remsen edition we've seen? No. Is any Remsen the best Remsen that we've ever seen? Probably not. I mean, over the years, it's probably not been the best prep for the Kentucky Derby, but the horse did get a chance to go 2 turns, and I thought run very nicely with his ears pricked at the wire.
So we'll find out more about him perhaps in the Withers. The other big race at Aqueduct was the Demoiselle. And here's a horse that people will get a little bit excited about, maybe a lot excited about. But Julia Shining's an interesting case here. She wins the race. Now, from the pedigree standpoint, you got to love her going in. She's a full sister to Malathat, who won the Demoiselle in 2020. Malathat was going to be a champion when the championships come out later on, or early in 2023. She's got this great pedigree. She was impressive in her first win. She comes out and wins the Demoiselle. But, frankly, Zoe, I wasn't really impressed. I mean, first of all, the buyer number came back terrible, a 70. And, she was kind of a little bit like her older sister. She was just grinding away the whole time and, never looked like she was, going to dominate the field, kind of hard pressed to win. I mean, with that pedigree, trained by Todd Pletcher, et cetera, I'm not going to give up on this horse by no stretch of the imagination. By the way, Pletcher won this race for the 8th time. Demoiselle, amazing. But, from right now, if you look, we're talking about like Hoosier Philly and Wonder Wheel and Justique, that, the real stars of this division. I'm not quite ready to put her in there.
I'm going to disagree with you on this one, Bill, because I think that it's just going to take her a while to figure things out. To me, the one thing that is glaringly obvious is that she doesn't want to get that beautiful, pretty face of hers dirty. She cannot handle the kickback, and it was sloppy kickback. She was actually just in touch with the field enough to get plenty of kickback. She was almost covered when she turned for home. But after watching her train all summer at Saratoga, she started off the initial meet at Saratoga. I'm like, wow, she's going to be a freak. And then she tailed off a little bit throughout the summer, and then she came back with that fantastic win at Keeneland. How she won, nobody really knows. And then she comes back with a similar effort over a track that she obviously hated. I've got to give Louis Sayers basically an Eclipse Award for peddling the whole distance of the Demoiselle. I mean, he truly won the race for trainer Todd Pletcher and Stone Street Stables, because he rode her every single step of the way. Once she gets clear, she just grinds for home. I think she has a lot more to give that we're just not seeing. And she's going to learn in her starts as she goes along. Now, perhaps the biggest thing that went on this weekend was Stone Street and the fantastic weekend that they had. Not only did they breed the winner, they own the winner, they also bred the winner we just talked about in W.Y. Nell, who's by Good Magic, who is coursed by Carolyn. So basically, what we should be talking about is Stone Street and what a fantastic breeding operation they have. Obviously, this filly is by Curlin. W.Y. Nell is by Good Magic, who's by Curlin. It all goes back to Curlin. So I'm not going to give up on her. It looks like she'll go to where is he? Palm Beach?
Palm Beach Downs.
Palm Beach Downs.
He's
for
Palm
Todd.
Beach Downs, yep.
Palm Beach Downs. I always get them muddled up. And then she'll probably follow what Ness did. A story came out today that she's probably going to run in the Suncoast Stakes, which is February the 11th. So she'll get a little bit of a wee break. She's likely to fill out a bit more and get bigger. She's a big framey filly. That, along with the fact that she just doesn't get going in her races, begs me to believe that the older she gets, the better she's going to get. And the fact that she's actually won 2 races, I don't care what kind of number she got. Who cares? Right. Just visually watching her, it's fun to watch, isn't it?
Sure. But Zoe, would you put her in the same sentence as Hoosier Philly, who on this podcast, the 3 of us with Randy involved were raving about? That's the type of thing. Maybe I'm being raising the bar a little bit too high, but I wouldn't put her in that class. Now, can she get there? Sure. But right now, I don't think she could, come close to a horse like that.
Not now. But I mean, wait until next year. She's a filly. I mean, we're all forgetting that she's going to get better with distance. I mean, distance is going to be basically the ace in her pocket. And the Kentucky Oaks is run over a mile and 1/8. And it's a mile and 1/8, right? Not mile and 3/16.
Mile and 8, yep.
And that's going to be her distance. I'll have no question going up against Hoosier Philly the first Friday in May, should they both get there. She's going to be a grinder. She's going to be just like a sister. Why wouldn't she be?
Sort of looks like it, doesn't it? But anyways, we'll find out more about her next year. She's obviously done for this year, and then we'll see what she does. But a loaded 2-year-old filly class, soon to be 3-year-old filly class. A lot of really good horses in there as well. So we'll find out about that. Now, Zoe, let's go out to Del Mar. I think you, Randy, and I made a mistake a couple weeks ago on the show. We went over our Eclipse Awards, and we were Warlike Goddess, Warlike Goddess, Warlike Goddess. She's going to be the one for the filly and mare turf. Never mind. I totally take that back. We forgot about Regal Glory. And I think we also forgot that there was still one other very big race out there for the older fillies and mares on the grass. So let's look at Regal Glory after she wins the matriarch by 5 1/4 lengths. She's 4 for 7 on the year with 4 stakes wins. The important, the most to me as a voter in the Eclipse Awards, the most important number is she's won 3 Grade 1 races. I love Warlike Goddess. She's awful good, but she's 3 for 5 on the year with 1 Grade 1 victory to her credit, albeit a big one because she beat the boys in the Joe Hirsch. But I have totally changed my mind. Regal Glory, Chad Brown, this assembly line of talent he has when it comes to fillies and mares on the grass. And he loves to go out to these races in the West Coast at the end of the year and just, picks the pockets clean of the West Coast guys, wins with Regal Glory. She was dominant. She won by 5 1/4 lengths. And with apologies to Warlike Goddess, she's no longer my Eclipse Award choice.
No, she's not going to be. She's 4 for 7 on the year, like you mentioned, 3 Grade 1 wins. It's generally a case of what have you done for me lately? Yes, Warlike Goddess was 3rd in the Breeders' Cup. This filly was 10th. This mare, Regal Glory was 10th. But then she comes right back and wins a Grade 1. And that was a sublime performance. I mean, I think she clocked 11 1 that final 1/8 of a mile and just absolutely finished like a freight train down there under Flavian Pratt, who was picking up, I think, his 5th win of the day. And then he came back and won 6 of 8 a little bit later on. So Regal Glory obviously sold in the January sale for $925,000 to Peter Brandt, his White Birch farm. Just fantastic. I could watch that race over and over again and watch her finish. And to think she's 6 years old. And a lot of times you may think that, mares are at their prime at 5. And why did they bring her back into training at 6? I mean, good for them. I mean, she's been terrific all year long.
Yeah, well, we can find out what the reason they brought her back. They knew that what they had there, and it looks like they will get an Eclipse Award on that. And it's a similar situation the voters might have to face coming up. We also said that Epicenter is a 3-year-old male champion. What if Taba wins the Malibu? That would give him 3 Grade 1 races, 3 Grade 1 victories on the year. Whereas again, Epicenter kind of unlucky to only won 1 Grade 1, but in fact, he did win only 1 Grade 1. So, what do you do about that? I'm going to keep an open mind on that as well.
I think you have to. And I think one of the problems that the Eclipse Awards have is it's that the Malibu is in the holiday season. And a lot of people put it, I mean, I'm the last minute person to do anything. But a lot of people already have in their minds, even if they haven't done it yet, will have put in their votes for Eclipse Award and will have forgotten that Taba's going to run in the Grade 1 Malibu on December 26th. I was talking to Gary Young about this the other day, the guy that bought Taba. And he goes, well, what if he wins the Malibu? I'm like, it might not matter because a lot of people put their votes in. They shouldn't be allowed to put their votes in until December 31st, as far as I'm concerned. And you shouldn't be allowed to make up your minds until the last Grade 1 races have been run. Yeah,
I mean, nobody should vote until after this. And maybe Epicenter will win no matter what. Like I said, whereas with Regal Glory, we already know that she won. She gets my vote. Tava, of course, has to win this race first. But if he does, that's going to set up a really interesting question there. Because as good a year as Epicenter had, he did win only 1 Grade 1 race. And that's normally the main criteria I use when evaluating who I'm going to vote for champions.
What about Speaking Scout? How good was he for Grand Motion?
Terrific.
Taking down the Hollywood Derby at odds of 10 to 1. I mean, you want to talk about a terrific little horse. He was a $3,000 yearling. I think he was purchased off his second career start by Eclipse Thoroughbreds, and then he takes down the Hollywood Derby. A terrific job by Graham and his assistant, Alice Clapham.
Yeah, well done, indeed.
The TDN Writers Room is brought to you by Keeneland. Just remember, the Keeneland catalog is now online for the Keeneland January Horses of All Ages sale. The Keeneland has cataloged over 1,500 horses, including broodmares, broodmare prospects, short yearlings, and horses of racing age, plus stallion prospects and stallions. The auction will cover 4 sessions from January the 9th through January the 12th. The most recent graduate we just talked about, her name was Regal Glory, 3 grade 1s this year. She was purchased for $925,000 at last year's January sale. You better be at Keeneland January if you want a grade 1 winner like Regal Glory. We'll be right back after this message from Keeneland.
If this place could talk, it would roar. It would say, "This is racing." This beating heart in the heart of horse country. Steady and strong beneath the roar. Reminding us why. For the love of the horse. For generations to come.
He was just put together like a machine, and he had a great mind. Everything about him was what you'd want.
Tis the Law pops the cork in the champagne. Tis the Law is going to win the first leg of the Triple Crown.
I've never seen him get tired.
Respect the law. Tis the Law.
His structure is just perfect. His bone is perfect.
He's left the others behind. He's going to win the Run Happy Travers.
He's everything you would look for in a horse.
The TDN Writers Room is brought to you by Coolmore. It was just announced that Grade 1 Travers winner Epicenter will be new to Coolmore America in 2023. The son of Not This Time will stand for $45,000 in his debut season. So let's get this right, Randy. Coolmore has 5 new stallions in 2023. Corniche, Early Voting, Epicenter, Golden Pal, and Jack Christopher. Who's your pick going to be? I know who mine is, but who do you like? If you had a mare to breed, who are you going to?
I'm going to Jack Christopher. Been a big fan from day one of him.
Really?
Yes. Very fast, very talented horse. Why not?
All right. I might be a bit biased. I'm going to Corniche. Proven around 2 turns. A really good 2-year-old. Yeah, everyone says, who did he beat? Who did he beat? But I'm not sure we ever got to see how good he really could have been as a 3-year-old. So some really, really exciting prospects coming forward for Coolmore America.
Well, when we were doing our weekend in review, we were concentrating on the big races in New York and California. But Zoe, there was a race at Laurel that really caught my attention for a number of reasons. First of all, it was the Maryland Juvenile for Maryland breds. You don't think anything special is going to come out of that. The winner is a horse by the name of Post Time, and he has been ultra impressive in his 3 lifetime wins, including this race. This was his first ever stakes appearance. He just galloped. He made a move on the turn. He looked like a Rozzi almost. Who did he beat? Of course, that's a big question. I don't know who he beat, but I wouldn't come to the conclusion. I wouldn't rule this horse out as maybe a type of horse you might see in a race like the Wood Memorial or something down the line. But you know what I really got a kick out of? The jockey on the horse is someone by the name of Eric Camacho. Who is he? Have you ever heard of him? Well, I don't remember him. In 2016, he retired and went to work as an exercise rider. All these years later, he's galloping this horse for trainer Brittany Russell, and the thing is a handful. He's just a rogue. He's all over the place. In his first 2 races, he was weaving in and out of the stretch. And Brittany Russell and Eric Camacho got together and said, you know what? You can handle, Eric, you can handle this horse. We don't know about other people. You're familiar with him. The horse is being ridden by his exercise rider. He is 3 for 3 on the year. Eric Camacho is undefeated as a jockey. What a neat story if this guy takes this horse all the way to the Kentucky Derby or something like that. I know he's got 1,000,000 miles to go. Zoe, should this inspire you? You should come out of retirement.
That is not happening anytime soon, but a very cool story. I actually had to preview that race for XBTV and First Racing, and I'm looking at it, and basically it was between the top 2 finishers in that race was who the betting public zoned in on. The horse who was second actually went off the favorite. But Post Time was absolutely terrific. I'm not sure if you look at the Equibase chart, do you really get the full feel for the race? Because I watched the race back. I didn't manage to watch it live because I was in New Orleans. But I mean, Eric was just a passenger on him, and he just turned for home, looked behind him, looked this way, and just cruised on. I mean, it was a remarkable performance by the son of Frosted, who is now a perfect 3 for 3. Camacho gets on this horse in the morning, and apparently Brittany Russell was saying to him, well, he's kind of a handful. And Camacho said to her, well, if you want someone to ride him in the afternoon, they sure as hell better get on him in the morning because he likes to rear up a lot. So she was like, well, why don't I just put you on him? Camacho, I have his past performances down here. He's actually won 788 races as a jockey from over 4,700 starts. His best season was in 2005. Had a good season in 2010, making over $1 million in purses. So, I mean, he's a jockey who can ride. He's obviously very good in the mornings. And kudos to Brittany for leaving him on. She did say that he's liable to stay with Maryland breds and perhaps point towards the Tessio, which has actually been a good stepping stone over the years for perhaps the road to the Kentucky Derby. Or who knows, we may see him wind up in New York. But a really cool story for post time with a terrific name and a terrific story. And if you're not rooting for him, you'd better be, because horse racing at the end of the day is all about the stories. And this is a good story that people can get behind.
Yeah, it really is a neat story. So she told me there's pretty much two options. The owner is very Maryland centric. They have all those races like the Tessio, a bunch of them beforehand. That perhaps could lead to a start in the Preakness. I feel like maybe we're getting a little carried away. People might say, come on, what are you talking about? The Preakness Source won a Maryland bred race. But Zoe, you captured it. It was electrifying. And, what did he beat? I have no idea, but it was really, really good. The other possibility is maybe showing up in a race in New York, like the Gotham or something like that. And, if you pass that test, that could lead to almost anywhere. But I've never heard of a horse, especially a stakes horse, where they've entrusted the job of riding to the exercise rider. Remember, since 2017, he's had 3 mounts, all of them on this horse. But he looks, critique him. He looks fine on the horse. You would never look at him and say, oh, what's that guy doing?
Hey, it's like riding a bike at the end of the day. I mean, he keeps fit in the morning. There's nothing like riding races. I will say that much. You could be the best exerciser in the world and work 10 horses a day, and you're not going to be race fit. So if he ever has to get down and ride this horse, which doesn't look like he's had to in all 3 starts, he's just had to hang on, then you might see a bit of a problem. But for now, Eric Camacho and post time, a match made in heaven, and long may it continue, because it's a fun story to get behind. But he is a guy with a lot of race riding experience, 4,700 races, 788 wins. Yeah, who cares if he's ring rusty?
Right. Now, we all love these underdog stories, and there's another one opening day at Oaklawn Park on Friday. Tyler's Tribe is coming back in the Advent Stakes after that debacle in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf where he bled and was banned off the track. I talked to trainer Tim Martin, says the horse is doing great. He's not real. He can go back on Lasix for this race. It is at 5.5 furlongs, and he looks dominant on paper. If he runs back to his, best races coming out of Prairie Meadows, he should win this race. And then the questions will begin again. Is he just a sprinter, or might you try him in some of those Oaklawn races on the route to the Arkansas Derby and the Kentucky Derby? I have no idea if he's going to go long or not. The trainer seems to think he will. But again, talk about cool horses and cool stories. The little horse out of Iowa is coming in and now taking on the big league horses at Oaklawn Park. Though this race didn't come up very strong, he should win.
Yeah, I'm looking at the PPs right now. It's a field of 9. And he draws post position number 5. He's 3-5 with Kylie Jordan back aboard him. And to quote the trainer, Tim Martin, he's an Archibred. Basically, he broke him in Arkansas at his training center. He just never got a chance to run there. They took him to Prairie Meadows and ran him at Prairie Meadows in his juvenile years. So he's been there before, and he's going to get a chance to show us what he's made of. He did have a bleeding episode in the Breeders' Cup. Hopefully he's had enough time to regroup from that. He will be back on Lasix. He is a high weight in here at 124 pounds. Some of these get in light with 117 pounds. The horse drawn right on the outside of the field. Happy is a Choice is a pretty nice colt by Run Happy. So he gets in light there with first-time Lasix. And we'll see what Tyler's Tribe can do. But I know you'll be rooting for him because you are his number 1 fan.
Oh, I'm his biographer. I love this horse. And now, so it's too early to answer the question, but I mean, do you see anything in this horse that suggests he can't go a distance or that he can go a distance?
I mean, he might be able to go a distance at Oaklawn on a sloppy track. He's by Sharp as Tecker out of a Mission Impossible mare. I don't see why not. I do feel he'll be a better one-turn horse, but the first time is the best time to try it. I've ridden so many horses that can't get 2 turns, but the very first time they do it, they get around the first turn, and then they get to the second turn, and they're like, oh, okay, well, we'll go around this one too, and then they win. And then the next time you try and do it, it's not quite the same. So he'll try it. I mean, why wouldn't you? As long as he runs well enough on Friday to try it.
We'll find out, and I'll certainly be rooting for him. 3 to 5 in the morning line. Not a great betting proposition, but rooting for a good story. It's a quiet weekend of racing coming up, but there is the Grade 1 Starlet out at Los Alamitos, otherwise known as the Bob Baffert Invitational. He's won it 5 straight times. And TDN Rising Star Feza is in there. Will be the heavy favorite for Baffert to make it 6 in a row. What do you think of this one, Joy?
Yeah, I'm not really sure who else is going to run against Feza. I do know she was a late supplement. She didn't break her maiden until the Del Mar meet. She broke her maiden in the middle of November and was fantastic doing it. She won by 3.5 lengths, but that was under wraps. They did supplement her for $10,000 to the $300,000 Starlet, but the Starlet's still a Grade 1, so why wouldn't you? I'm actually really surprised that she wasn't already supplemented. It may have been, sometimes these things get forgotten about. She forgot to be nominated. I don't know, but she most definitely will be the one to beat in the Starlet.
Yeah, $10,000 doesn't sound like a lot of money to pay for a horse that's going to be the big favorite in a $300,000 race. So we will take a look at that. And then the following week, we'll have the Los Alamitos Futurity. I always root for the Los Alamitos meet. I think, that it's kind of the, forgotten about for good reason with Del Mar and Santa Anita, but those people try really hard, and to have come up with the Thoroughbred meet has really been a big feather in the cap and really helped California racing. So horsemen support Los Alamitos. You don't do enough of that. These guys deserve to have some good races out there. So good luck to them with the Starlet.
And it looks like we'll see another new jockey arriving in Southern California. Luis Contreras has arrived in Southern California, and he's a very, very good rider. He's going to join the ranks. He's actually going to ride the Los Al meet, try and get his foot in the door with Jocks agent Mike Ciani. We'll see what he can do. But it looks like the jockey colony, they might have to build a bigger jocks room. I mean, it's going to be a terrific jockey colony here this winter at Santa Anita.
And it's a good point, too, because it's gone from being arguably a real weak colony. I mean, when you had, a lot of people leave and you had Juan Hernandez, and then Mike Smith doesn't ride that much. And really, who else? Now you bring Pratt in, you bring Frankie Dettori in, you bring John Velasquez, you bring Luis Contreras in. It's gone from a weakness to a major strength overnight. It'll be very interesting to see what Dettori can do. I just wonder if he's going to get any mounts from Bob Baffert. And it's going to be there's so many people that, Baffert is giving mounts to already. I don't know how he's going to fit Dettori in. And if he doesn't, I think Dettori's not going to be able to find that 3-year-old he's looking for, but we'll see.
He's got plenty of horses. I think his main goal right now is to get back on Country Grammar and take him out to Saudi. I mean, that could pay for your whole winter there, winning the Saudi Cup.
Yeah, of course. Yes.
So it'll be good. And we also have the leading rider coming down from Woodbine as well. So
Kimura, very good rider as well.
Very good rider.
Kimura from Woodbine, yes.
I think you'll see him on a lot of horses trained by one Phil DeMata.
Okay.
The TDN Writers Room is brought to you by Lane's End. The Lane's End Stallion of the Week is West Coast. The champion 3-year-old had his first 2-year-olds this year, including Sally Sassy, who won the Golden Gate Debutante on November the 25th, and Mars Express, who won the Eleanor Casey Memorial on the very same day. West Coast will stand for $10,000 in 2023. We'll be right back after this message from Lane's End.
Tonalist, a 4-time Grade 1 winner with 11 triple-digit buyers, including the Belmont Stakes and the Cigar Mile. He's already living up to his potential as a sire with multiple graded stakes winners, including Grade 1 winner Country Grammar and Grade 2 winner Tonalist Shape, plus multiple 6-figure yearling and 2-year-old sales. Proven on the track, proven in the sales ring. Tonalist, standing at Lane's End.
The Green Group Guest of the Week is sponsored by The Green Group. an accounting and tax consulting advisory firm specializing in the thoroughbred industry. With over 500 clients in the horse business, they have proven strategies to save you taxes. Learn more about how they can help you at www.greenco.com.
And we welcome in now our Green Group guest of the week, Norman Lynn Cash, a guy in a very short period of time as an owner and trainer is making a lot of headlines. He's, of course, is the trainer of Beverly Park, that magnificent horse who's raced 28 times this year with 13 wins. Lynn, welcome. It's great to have you. I want to talk to you for a while because you're doing things so differently than most trainers do, running these horses, 7 days apart, 2 weeks apart, et cetera. But first of all, you kind of really did come out of the middle of nowhere. You've only been in the game for a while. What's your background and how did all this get started?
Well, I was a roofing contractor for a lot of my life, and we would go to where hailstorms happen, and we would set up an office there and bring our group there and do roofing. And we were in, I think it was 2011, we were in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I was so surprised, like, wow, I could drive to the Kentucky Derby. I'd always wanted to go. I'd never been able to go. I'd always been a huge fan. And so we drove to the Derby. We actually caught the Derby, the Preakness, and the Belmont that year. I think it was 11. It might have been 12. But it was the year that I'll Have Another won the Derby. And it came out that I'll Have Another was bought at auction just as a 2-year-old the year before by, I think Doug O'Neill was a trainer. And I told my wife, says, wow, we could own a thoroughbred. We could own a racehorse. How fun would that be? And so we kind of jumped in. We bought 3 that year. Had a little bit of success, but not necessarily. And then for about 6 or 7 years, we were an owner of 2 or 3. On good years, would buy a couple at auction, and on tougher years, we didn't have any extra money to do that. And so after about 6 or 7 years, I finally told my wife, says, you know what? I think if we make a couple of small changes, I can make a living doing this. And so I kind of handed the reins of my roofing company to my children, and we started claiming racehorses. And so far, we've knock on wood, so far we've done well.
Now, it's very hard for an owner, if they don't get really lucky or catch lightning in a bottle, to make money year after year in this business. Were you aware of that? Did anybody tell you, Lynn, stay with your roofing business? That's guaranteed money. Training and owning horses is hard.
Well, I figure I've been, we took I got a a very expensive education over those 6 or 7 years. And, with just a few racers, the bills come in, and, we experienced it firsthand how difficult it is, to make a living doing that. But we, as I evaluated things, I thought claiming would be better, because then you've got less time before races. You've got the horses already fit. You have some other things that can go wrong, and believe me, there's a lot of things that can go wrong and have gone wrong. But it seems like there's more things that can go right, or it seems to work for us. We started running the horses probably a little more often than a lot of the status quo or the industry standards. I personally think 11 or 12 days is absolutely perfect and works for me. But a lot of times you can't find that race at 11 or 12 days. You either have to go in at 9 days or 19 or 20 days. And so if I have that option, I go 9 days, as long as the horse is fit and in good shape and no issues. I go 9 days every time instead of the 19 days for it. And again, we've had, I think at 10 or 11 days, you can get 98% out of what the horse has to give you back. I think he's recuperated. He's ready to go. And because at 9 or 10 days, usually you're working the horse anyway. After a race, you're giving him an almost a race-like work. And I thought, well, maybe we should just race him into fitness instead of work them into fitness.
Now, you said you told your wife you think you can make a living doing this. Is it working? You don't have to tell me exactly how much you're making, but is this now something where it's more than just a hobby or a fun thing to do on the side? Is this how the Cash family now is putting food on the table?
Yeah, we still have the roofing company that goes that my kids run and that provides for a lot of the Cash family. But yeah, we are profitable. We're turning a profit. I think all but 1 month in 18 months, we've turned a profit, which means we made more money than it cost us to for the bills and so forth. And so we had one month where we didn't get a lot of races in, and that was the month. But other than that, we're a pretty sound and pretty profitable business. Built Right Stables is.
Now, did this change come about so far as profitability when you kind of, saw the light and said, I can run these horses every 9 days? Is that what happened? Is that what changed your fortunes?
Well, I've had some really good claims. You talked about Beverly Park. I mean, that horse I think he's probably the epitome of the short race, of the short rest for the race. But if you look at the rest of them, they do from time to time run on the shorter rest, but the days have actually spread out a little bit. There was a time about a year ago. It was I was trying to get landed on my feet last winter, and ran some things, and it didn't work, and so we stepped back and evaluated, and if you take Beverly Park out of contention, you'd probably find that it's not. I'm not waiting 3 weeks, but I'm not running the 7-8 days a lot, even though it doesn't bother me to, I had a horse Double Crown that won the Kelso, which was a grade 2. He was on 7 days rest. We felt like he didn't get completely used up because he had a bad trip 7 days earlier in the Maryland Millions classic race. He ran 4th that day and really could never get free. And so we put him back in the Kelso, which was in at Aqueduct, and we're at 42-1 shot. But again, there was only 6 horses in the field, and sometimes races set up and things happen that the unexpected comes in.
Lynn, when you see other trainers run horses 5 times a year, 2 months off in between races, I'm not saying that better than or you're a better trainer than them, but it's so contrary to what you do. Do you scratch your head? You wonder why there's not more people doing it the way you're doing it?
Well, one, there's a lot of logistics involved. We've got about 50 horses, and we ship. We're not at a track where we just run at that track, and so there's a lot of shipping and a lot of logistics and a lot of work. But I don't know I've found what works for us is doing this because, I don't have any owners. And so at the end of the month, if I don't earn enough purse money, I have to pull that out of my bank account instead of the company bank account. And so we try to clear every month, and it just seems like we're getting good results. We're winning about 15% on the year. I think the last 6 months we're closer to 20 because we had a really poor start at the beginning of the year last year, trying to get my feet under me and so forth and get things figured out. But it seems to be working for us. And so we reevaluate all the time. Sometimes it's like, wow, why did we do that? What were we thinking? And then other times it's like, man, that really worked out well.
Now, most of the horses you have are horses you claimed. You made some very good claims, none better than Beverly Park. But is there anything in particular? What do you look for when you claim a horse?
One, I like to, you mentioned earlier, I like to see the lightly raced horses. Some of these horses that have only run 5 or 6 times in a year, that is really nice because, again, we've kind of got more of a blue collar barn. They're going to run unless there's issues in our barn. And I typically look for back class. I like a horse that has ran really tough at some point in its life, and maybe it's not running well now, or maybe it had a layoff and so forth, or maybe the owners get frustrated and say, oh, let's just put it in and get a win because they're frustrated because maybe they're trying to get their bills paid.
Right.
And so we, I really like the two other than back for the tag level. The 2X, I call them. I really like that race to claim out of. We've probably got half a dozen that are just really monsters that have come out of that particular race, and not for that much money. But my best claims, I believe, have been 40 and under. Even though I had Sir Alfred James, he's earned the most for us. He's my top horse, but he was a 62.5 claim. But we've had, Double Crown was a $40,000 claim. Eastern Bay he's won 4 races for us. He was a $35,000 claim. We've just been very lucky and very successful with the claims.
And Lynn, right now, Beverly Park's becoming a fan favorite. I mean, this iron horse that is out there. Now, you run most of your horses a lot, but nothing like Beverly Park. If you do the math, he averages a start every 12 days during the year. Is there anything in particular about this horse, his constitution, his makeup, that he is, the proverbial iron horse?
Well, he's the most sound and healthy horse I've been around. We've a lot of it. Matter of fact, he's in at Mahoning on Monday for his 29th start. But he is very sound, and the type of race that he's running in, there are some really tough horses in there, but for the most part, a lot of for the most part, it's not a complete full field of really, really tough horses. He's running in a starter 5, which he runs against the same race level, and he's not in for the claiming price, but he just runs over and over that in that starter 5 level. And he's as we come towards the end of the year here, I lose that starter 5 eligibility with him in a lot of the tracks around the country. In 30 days here, there will be a few that I can still run for the whole 2 years, but for the most part, it's as soon as we get to where he has no more tracks, we'll give him a little freshening and then go see if he can win at the 2 other than level and see what he can do after that.
Does he ever show any fatigue, any signs of wear and tear? Does he ever tell you, "Hey, boss, I need this week off"? There have been some that there have been some races that after the race, I've said, "Wow, he was again." The reason that we run second, or the reason we run second or third, was because he was maybe only at 96% instead of a little more rest. But for the most part, when he 2-3 days after he runs, he's back, jumping. He's at the front of the stall. He's just out there and ready to go. He's ready to go the track. If we hold him and make him gallop slow or jog, he actually gets mad. You can just see him as he throws his head around, and he just wants to go. He's just such a competitor. He's and the iron horse, it absolutely fits him. We've not had to do any work on him. He's just there. He's just, we never have any pressure in any of his joints. He's just he's an incredibly sound horse. He's just the epitome of a workhorse. He just goes out, and even, sometimes he gets not the trip we want, or sometimes racing happens and this happens and we didn't get a good hole or whatever. But every time he gives everything that he has. Sometimes he goes too soon because he pushes out there, and then we get caught at the wire and stuff. But again, he gives everything he has every time. He's just such a sweet and amazing horse. Right. Lynn, he's, for all practical purposes, he's wrapped up the title. He will be the winningest horse in 2022. Whether you get 14 wins, 15 wins or not, there's no one that's even close to him. For someone who's relatively new to the game, what does it mean to you to have said, I campaigned the horse that won the most races of any horse an entire year.
I can tell you that it's about 98% horse and 2% trainer. I just happened to grab his coattail as he was, and he's drugged me along with him. But yeah, we're a good fit too, because I think in a lot of barns, he wouldn't have had the opportunity for this because he wouldn't have had as many races. His win percentage probably would have been higher because on 3 or 3.5 weeks rest, he probably wins 85 or 90% of his races this year. But again, it just, in at Baltas Stables, we just have to weigh, time versus races versus time off and versus purse money. Again, I tell people that this is a business, and I'm running a business that happens to be horses. I have to do what's good for the horses, but I have to make business decisions too, so that the business turns a profit, so that we can keep doing this. And we're growing. I don't know. We're growing. It seems like 2 or 3 horses a month. We're growing. I don't know. Where it. I don't know when it stops growing. But I'm having the time of my life here. It's they say, oh, I've changed careers, but I don't know that I have, because I don't know. I can't call this work. It's this horse racing is addictive.
You said that back in time you did go to the sales and buy a few horses. Now, you have won a graded stakes race in the Kelso, but do you ever see yourself, trying to win at the stakes level and enable to, well, obviously if you claim a horse and he jumps up in class is good enough to win a race like the Kelso, that's one thing. But would you ever go to the sales, maybe not spend $1 million on a horse, but spend $150,000, $200,000 on the horse? Would you ever like to take this way of doing things and transfer it from the claiming ranks into graded stakes ranks?
Oh, I would love the opportunity to have 2-year-olds come into the barn. What a dream to have half a dozen $50,000 2-year-olds come into the barn that have the potential that maybe they could work into something. It seems like here at our barn, if I look at most of the horses, probably 85 or 90% of the horses that we claim, they do move up. They move up as far as the speed ratings that they do, the level that they're running, etc. But there's still that 10 or 15% that either don't move up or stay where they're at. But the nice thing is with the claiming, it seems like even if they don't move up, you don't get hit really hard. Sometimes when the most expensive horse that I bought at auction was $155, and I still have him in the barn, and I've gotten out on him. He won a maiden special at Churchill. Hippodrome is his name. But before that, I had spent $100,000 on one horse, and this turned into a $250,000 loss. That one horse, because 2.5 years later, we gave the horse away to get him off the books, to stop paying the bills on him, and to keep a horse for 2 years, and he was $100,000 gelding running in a maiden 5, and it just to me it seems like for me when we get into those types of things, it seems like you're risking a lot you're risking a lot where it seems, this is proven and working. But so we do venture out a little bit here and there, but again, you gotta, I limit myself to 2 maidens a year. I kind of think that maidens are bought on hopes and dreams. And so the price for hopes and dreams is a lot sometimes. And so I try to claim just two maidens a year. So that I can have that dream of one of them coming up and maybe running in the Derby someday. But for the most part, we do what works. If it ain't broke, we don't fix it. And that'll probably always be the 80 or 90% of our stable. There is the basis, the basic, claiming and trying to claim good horses. And surprisingly, we run in 6 or 7 or 8 stakes a month. with the claimers. We don't,
Right.
we've got, but again, we don't, we were probably in over our heads in the cigar. We ran in the Cigar Mile last Sunday. We were in over the heads. The horse that won the grade 2 didn't like the track. And so, but again, it was still fun. It's still fun to say, wow, to throw your hat in the ring and say, wow, we're kind of there. We're having fun along the way.
Terrific. Well, Lynn, thanks so much for your time and congratulations with all your success. Will Beverly Park get 2 more starts before the end of the year? Do you have anything after the Mahoning race?
Probably one more after that race.
Yeah, absolutely. That would make 30 starts for him in the year. Just remarkable what you've accomplished. So, well, Lynn, thank you so much for being our guest this week on the TDN Writers Room podcast.
Okay. Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Thanks so much to Norman Lynn Cash for joining us, or perhaps just joining Bill. I was in New Orleans and completely forgot about the time. You know how it is. Happy times in New Orleans. But the Green Group Guest of the Week is sponsored by the Green Group, an accounting and tax consulting advisory firm specializing in the thoroughbred industry. As this week's Guest of the Week, Norman Lynn Cash, you will receive a free 1-hour tax consultation. Learn more at www.greenco.com. We'll be right back after this message from the Green Group.
Why do the most successful owners, breeders, and horsemen select the Green Group as their tax advisor? We simply save them money and know how to make them more successful. Over the past 40 years, founder Leonard Green has owned and bred some of the best racehorses in the history of the sport. His in-depth, hands-on industry knowledge, combined with cutting-edge tax-saving strategies, has produced positive results for his clientele and has made the Green Group the top-rated accounting and tax firm in the business. For a confidential and complimentary consultation, contact us at 732-634-5100 or visit our website at www.greenco.com. The Green Group, proven strategies to save you taxes.
With some of the fullest fields in the country and quality racing year-round, there's never been a better time to reap the rewards of breeding and racing in Kentucky. Purse money in Kentucky is at an all-time high, as is average purse per race, outpacing California, Florida, and New York. Kentucky breds. Breed them, raise them, race them. We all win.
The TDN Writers Room is brought to you by the KTOB. Kentucky Bred swept all 4 Grade 1 races over the last 2 weeks. Proxy in the Grade 1 Clark, Mind Control in the Cigar Mile, Speaking Scout in the Hollywood Derby, and Regal Glory in the Matriarch.
Well, there's a good story in the TDN this week written by T.D. Thornton, the latest on Jason Service, who was really the last domino to fall in the big scandal, the doping scandal that goes all the way back almost 3 years now to March of 2020. And it appears that he's ready to enter a guilty plea. And what I would say to Jason is, what took you so long? He was going to take this, until this news came out, he was going to take this to trial, where he had 0 chance of winning, not 1%, 0 chance of winning. So that brings up a lot of factors. Number one, what are his legal bills? How much has he been paying out of his pocket to be represented all this time by a very high profile lawyer who I'm sure charges an awful lot of money? Then the other question, if you take it to trial and you lose, you're going to get a maximum sentence. You've lost any bargaining chip that you had. And, most of these guys in the scandal have been going away for like 3 years, something like that. Service is facing a lot more time than that. He's up for 3 counts of this misbranding and misbranding thing, whatever they call it, drug adulteration thing. But the key to this, there was a superseding indictment that came out after this happened, and they put in a mail and wire fraud charge, conspiracy charge as well on that. That's 20 years in jail. Jason Service, if he's not careful here, could be facing literally the rest of his life in prison. If so, good riddance, that's where he belongs. But, I've never understood the strategy here. Was he deluding himself into thinking he was going to go to trial and be acquitted? It just wasn't going to happen. So maybe in the next week or so, we'll find out that he pleads guilty. Then we'll get a sentence, somewhere down the line after that. And then this will really finally be over. He's the last one out there. Everyone else has been dealt with at this point. I guess that raises the question if there'll be another set of indictments coming out after this. I don't think there will be. I think this is it. It's, they dotted all the I's, crossed all the T's. The federal government is going to move on. But it looks like Jason Service is going to spend some time in prison, right where he belongs.
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree with you more. And I think perhaps the more discerning factor of him maybe going to plead guilty is that his vet changed his plea to guilty as well, which is going to hammer the nail in his coffin, so to speak. So I don't know, maybe he was getting bad advice. I've got no idea why it took so long. I mean, when you've got guys like Navarro pleading guilty and getting 5 years, in my opinion, he should have got a whole lot more than that. Why wouldn't you follow suit?
Yeah, I think he's going to get more than 5 years because of this extra charge of the. Yeah, they didn't go after Navarro on that kind of charge. They stuck to the drug adulteration and misbranding charges with Navarro. So he's going to spend a lot of time in jail. And then, maybe racing can move on from this very sorry, sordid chapter. And, hopefully we won't ever see anything like this again, because let's hope that, again, I don't want to go into this because we could spend another 45 minutes talking about Heiza and what's going on there. But hopefully we're the sport is ready to turn a corner and have a new era of more integrity whatsoever. So there was another kind of controversial case.
I think we need to see more stuff like this. And that's basically what Heiza was trying to bring in with 5 Stones, because the reason they got caught is not because of the testing. It was because they were investigated. They were wiretapped. Right. Racing needs more of this. We don't need more bad press and saying this guy's cheating and this guy's cheating, but this is how these guys were caught.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. And, that's one of the things that we've been bringing up, that, before Heiza, the system of just doing drug testing doesn't work. I mean, none of these horses for Navarro and Service ever failed a drug test. I have mixed feelings about that. I want to see the bad guys get caught, obviously. I just hope there are not that many more bad guys out there that, but whatever, we'll find out. I mean, this was an ugly chapter in horse racing, and I'm sure everyone would like to put it behind him. So anyways, let's move on to another case similar of alleged drug offenses. Richard Baltas was announced this week. Boy, they hammered him. CHRB gave him a 1-year suspension, and he allegedly was injecting horses on race day. The drugs was something, let's see.
Dosing, not injecting. Dosing.
What's that?
Not injecting. Dosing, an oral syringe.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Right. Thanks for pointing that out. Something called Palinol. I don't know what they are whatsoever. This thing is messy, Zoe. First of all, this happened months ago. I have no idea why the CHRB waited all this time to announce the suspension. And in the interim, he was banned by Santa Anita, the other tracks. He's countersuing for $12 million. The one thing that I would say, though, again, I don't know Baltas that well. He deserves his day in court. Let's see what happens. And he's apparently going to get his day in court because he's really fighting this. But the one thing I would say is, those of us who sit on the sidelines and say, we're tired of the slaps on the wrist. This guy got caught, he gets 14 days, et cetera. Tired of the slaps on the wrist. Well, if you're tired of slaps on the wrist, you got to applaud the CHRB for giving this guy a 1-year suspension. I mean, that is, there is a suspension with a lot of teeth in that. The only thing I'd say is this looks like on the surface, this case is not as simple as cut and dried. He got caught, bingo, goodbye. We'll see how it winds its way through the courts, et cetera. But, and another thing too, is you talk about how they caught Service and Navarro with drug testing. They caught Baltas with surveillance cameras. And I've long wondered, and we've talked about this on the show, why isn't there a surveillance camera in every barn and every racetrack in the country? And then you would, this is how they went about this here. So Santa Anita's been great about this. They've been really trying very hard to, run a clean show. And they're the ones responsible for putting the cameras in the barn. So 1-year suspension, good for this, good for having the cameras in the barn. We'll see what happens with this.
Yeah, the cameras are everywhere. And I think basically the assistant thought the camera wasn't working. I don't really want to get into it, but none of the horses tested positive for anything illegal so far to speak. He got his 12 months, which was great, but essentially he's going to get 19 months because he hasn't been allowed to work or enter any horses since last May. So it's taken a long time to come around. And I think the one thing we're going to see moving forward is the CHRB, the first racing, Santa Anita really coming down on people. And that's what they've done with trainer Richard Baltas. He's going to fight it. He's going to appeal, and this is probably going to be drug out for some time. But as of now, he's not even allowed to run any horses here.
Yeah, I mean, even if he appeals, he's not going to be able to race because that's not a CHRB thing. It's the tracks in California getting together and not allowing him to run. So no matter what happens, it's going to be a long time before he gets back in action. So as they say, stay tuned for that.
Absolutely. Oh, and you've probably never seen the cameras at Santa Anita. It is amazing.
No.
You could go into the room. There is literally a camera in every stall, everywhere. Gone are the days when someone used to like run in to go to the bathroom and relieve themselves in the back of the stall, because if you do, you're going to be on camera. You are definitely going to be on camera. So you can applaud Santa Anita for that too, because there is nothing that goes by without being seen on camera here. The TDN Writers Room is brought to you by XBTV. You can go in every day for free and take a look at works like this. XBTV's Work of the Week is Queen Goddess, seen working here in 102-1 on December the 4th. She ran second to Neige Blanche in the Grade 3 Santa Barbara in her last start, and she is a Grade 1 winner. XBTV.com for all your racing needs. We'll be right back.
All the thrills. Fraction of the bills. Experience the power of the partnership. Change your life, make new friends, and compete at the highest level of thoroughbred racing. West Point Thoroughbreds, the gold standard in racing partnerships. Visit westpointtb.com.
The TDN Writers Room is brought to you by West Point Thoroughbreds. Joining West Point Thoroughbreds can have you standing in the winner's circle for just a fraction of the price. To find out more, go to westpointtb.com. And it's not all about Flightline. West Point Thoroughbreds is closing in on the end of the year. They already have $8.5 million in earnings. They have 47 wins on the year. So we'll be watching to see if they can get to 50 by the close of December. Bill, that's pretty good. 50 wins, and it's not all about Flightline.
Well, 3 of them were for Flightline, so that would be 47 if they get to 50 for other horses. So congratulations to West Point, another terrific year for that.
Yeah, absolutely. westpointtb.com.
This week's Remy Block cartoon is in, and it's a takeoff on the referees at the World Cup. But this time, the referee is adjudicating all that's going on with HISA and horse racing. He's throwing yellow cards out all over the place, looks confused. So racing meets the World Cup in our convoluted, weird way that we are battling the courts for everything that's going on with the Horse Racing Integrity and Safety Act. So anyways, that wraps up another edition of the TDN Writers Room. I want to thank Zoe Cadman. Randy Moss will be back next week. I also want to thank our producer, Patty Wolf, our associate producer, Katie Petrudiak, and also our editors, Aaliyah LaRocca and Anthony LaRocca. We'll be back next week. Thanks for joining us.